Hey everybody, this is Francisco from Sports Goose. I'm joined by no one else because I've decided to do kind of a Sports Goose mini inspired by Charles, who has a separate version of the podcast called The Cage. His Cage segments all in its own separate podcast. So if you want to look for that, you can look for that at The Cage with Charles on whatever podcast app you use. He's on everything. He's on Audible, Amazon, Spotify, Google, Apple, whatever you want to use. He is very much likely on it. As far as Sports Goose, this is like a Sports Goose mini. Some stuff that we're not going to be back with the main show for maybe about 2-3 more weeks. But stuff is happening in sports, and I just want to talk about it. First of all, let's get my stuff out of the way. The Florida Panthers are the first team in the NHL this season to clinch a berth in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Incredibly proud of the team. They now have the team record for most wins in the regular season. Jonathan Huberdeau with the most points for a player in a regular season, most assists ever by a left winger in NHL history for a single season, the most home victories for the team in a single season. It is absolutely amazing, and it makes me afraid because they really, really need to win the cup. And there are still some question marks there. The defensive core, there's some question marks with regards to the new guys that we brought in from Montreal and Buffalo. And then, of course, there's the big question in net, whether Sergei Bobrovsky has the fortitude to guide the Panthers to a Stanley Cup run, or could the Florida Panthers task Spencer Knight with trying to lead them to the Stanley Cup? Kind of doing like a Cam Ward type of thing. Cam Ward was a rookie goaltender, and he led the Carolina Hurricanes to a Stanley Cup. So could it possibly be that? Sorry about that. Who knows? But there are a lot of huge question marks for me for the team with regards to that. As far as coaching and the offense, I'm not worried about that. It's just whether those guys in particular, the defensive core and the goaltenders, can get us past the first round. At this point, Florida will either face Boston or Washington in the first round. There's still got until the end of the month to see how the seeding plays out. But the Stanley Cup playoff seedings right now, the Eastern Conference is pretty much set with regards to which teams are going. Unless the Washington Capitals completely fall apart and the New York Islanders go on a massively miraculous run, it's highly likely that the teams will be Florida, Toronto, Tampa, Carolina, New York, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Washington. Those will be the teams. And then I haven't really looked much at the Western Conference, but the Colorado Avalanche have the most points in the league. But they've got it's Colorado, Minnesota, and St. Louis. Then Calgary, Los Angeles, Edmonton, Nashville, and Vegas. And Vegas is fighting off, as well as Nashville, they're fighting off Dallas at this point. Winnipeg is starting to fall behind, so we'll see what happens there. And yeah, the Vancouver Canucks have fallen behind, so Vancouver is not going to be a contender within this. It seems like they just won't be able to pick it back up. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the Stanley Cup playoff seedings at this point in the Sports Goose Mini that we're doing. As far as other news around the league, there was the thing with Zagros and the Anaheim Ducks. Just against the Arizona Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes are a terrible team. They are at this point they're tied for the worst team in the league at this moment. They're in a tank war between them, Seattle, and Montreal. And in a game that really meant nothing, Zagros doing the Michigan and just kind of running up the score, I guess, in a way. But at the same time, they're professional hockey players. Zagros is trying to get his because he's a sensational player. And the Arizona Coyotes, what was this guy's name? He won a Stanley Cup with the Capitals as well. I forgot his name already, but you know what? He's an asshole for cross-checking him and then trying to slam his head into the ground while he was down. And that's just such a bitch move. That's such a bitch move. All right, you cross-check a guy, sure, but then when he's down, you're going to keep going at him when he's in such a vulnerable position. And the league really needs to figure that stuff out because for the most part, enforcers are out of the game. There are just guys that are skilled, tough guys on the fourth line, but they can score, they can do things, they can check, they have a set of skills that can actually contribute to the game, but there's still a level of goonery here, and adherence to the unwritten rules. I feel like there's certain unwritten rules, like, okay, don't show up the other team's goaltender. Well, don't frickin' slam a guy's head into the ice when he's down, and you sucker cross-check them. Like, don't do that. Don't sucker punch a guy from the side. Don't do any of that stuff. Those should be unwritten rules right there. Those are things that nobody else talks about with regards to unwritten rules. How about it could be turned around the other way? You can flip the tables a bit. So that's my stuff on the NHL at this point. Moving on to the NBA. So the Miami Heat have clinched their spot in the playoffs. So it's looking great for them. They've already clinched the Southeast Division. And something I didn't even notice. I noticed I did notice it when I went to the Miami Heat game earlier a few weeks ago. And the Heat banners that are up in the rafters at the FTX Arena, they have their 3 championships and all their Eastern Conference championships, but they took down all the division championship banners because I think they've won their division 16 times in their history. And now there's just not enough room to just keep that going. So they've moved on to the point where they're successful enough where they don't need to keep track of that stuff. So that's a good thing to have as a franchise. So hopefully eventually there'll be more actual NBA championships, and we can start knocking out those conference championships as well. Because teams like, of course, Boston and Los Angeles Lakers, they don't keep track of the conference championships, division champions, none of that stuff. Anyways, speaking of Boston, they've also clinched their spot in the playoffs along with Milwaukee and Philadelphia. Miami's still fending those 3 teams off, and there is at this point 3 games left in the season. So the Heat are very much close to clinching home court throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs. So that's great. The Chicago Bulls, the Heat just beat them recently, so the Heat will kind of lost track there, but yeah, Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors hang in there at 5 and 6. The Cleveland Cavaliers dropped down into the play-in round. So you got Cleveland, you got the Atlanta Hawks as well. They have a winning record, 41-37. Same thing with Charlotte and the Brooklyn Nets. So at this point, we have the teams that will be in the play-in round. Cleveland's trying to catch up to Toronto and Chicago and see if they can avoid that. But right now, it's looking like Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn are going to have to play in that at this point. Actually, they have clinched it, so those teams will be playing in the play-in round, whereas Atlanta is about to be eliminated from the main playoff pool, and Cleveland's going to have to step up these last few games in order to catch up to the other two. But it seems like it's looking like it'll be Cleveland, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn in the play-in round, and then you got the other teams that were eliminated. The worst team in the NBA right now, we got a tank battle right now between the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets at this point. Those are the two teams that will fight out these last three games for both of them to see which team wins the tank battle and has the most ping pong balls come draft lottery. Anyways, Western Conference, Phoenix, they've got home court throughout the playoffs, so they've clinched that completely, won the West Division, or the Pacific Division. The Memphis Grizzlies won the Southwest Division. They're looking good. Even without Ja, they look good. And really, my heart is with Memphis. I want them to succeed and come out of the Western Conference, even if they do face the Miami Heat, hopefully, for that NBA Finals. Of course, I won't be cheering for Memphis if that happens, but I'd like to see Memphis do their thing. The Golden State Warriors, they've clinched the playoff berth as well, followed by Dallas. The Denver Nuggets just beat the Lakers, so they will get one step closer to clinching their playoff spot soon enough. Same thing with Utah. But those two teams are trying to fend off Minnesota, who is the 7th seed, trying to avoid that play-in round. And really the only other team in this very rare season where I think sooner, hopefully, the Eastern Conference teams may all have winning records, where the Western Conference will have teams that have losing records playing in the play-in round. It's very rare that this has happened. The Western Conference has been the more dominant conference throughout. I would say since the Bulls dynasty, and finally we're seeing the Eastern Conference finally be the conference with more, just more consistent teams. Still, given that Memphis and Phoenix have more wins than any team in the East, so there's that, and then you got Golden State and Dallas, and there's these. I think there's a lot more parity. That's probably the thing I'm trying to say, is there's a lot more parity with the East with those West teams, which is great to see. I'm happy for the East finally doing that. Play-in round, the Clippers have clinched their spot in the play-in round. The New Orleans Pelicans are close to doing so, I think. And then the San Antonio Spurs hold that last spot in the play-in round. And then the juicy one, the Los Angeles Lakers, trying to hang on for dear life. They're 2 games back of the San Antonio Spurs for that last spot with 4 games left. The same thing for the Spurs. They've got 4 games left. So if the Spurs and the Lakers, let's say, if they're lockstep in 2 games, it could be that the Lakers are eliminated, which I think most people in the NBA would be happy with. The New Orleans Pelicans could also falter, and Lakers could take their spot too. But once more, lockstep, finish at 500 for both of those teams, and the Lakers will be eliminated, and many people will be stroking their proverbial shafts on Twitter to LeBron and his crew not making the playoffs. I'm already laughing about it. So and then the rest of the teams in the West, and of course the tank battle between Houston and Orlando. So that's the NBA stuff. That's been cool. As far as the NFL, things have calmed down a bit with we discussed in our last episode the big trades that did go down. So now it's just all about gearing up for the draft. So we'll gear up for that at some point. And then you got baseball. So Major League Baseball teams are making some their final cuts soon enough. Guys are getting designated for assignment. Prospects are being designated to their respective minor league teams. And teams are making some last-minute trades to try to round out their rosters, trying to fill in whatever holes they feel that they need to fill in for the start of the regular season. And we're a few days away from baseball. And that's good. That's good. I think we need a little bit of baseball in our lives and see how things play out. Of course, it's April. Weird things happen in April. Teams that shouldn't be contenders sometimes go out to hard starts. Teams that should be contenders, sometimes they start off slow. So remember, April is not really the month to weigh in too much, but there have been some things that did come out, namely the New York Mets. The New York Mets are going to be without Jacob deGrom and even Max Scherzer to start out their season, and that has left a lot of Mets fans to spiral into depression and a lot of people in Major League Baseball, especially here in the NL East, are laughing at the Mets, because as much as the Mets have an owner with an endless amount of money that is trying to buy his way to a World Series championship, the Mets still find a way to become the Mets. And that's always fun to see. That is always fun to see. But we'll see. We'll see. Once again, things on paper right now. Things are on paper. Spring training doesn't matter. Spring training doesn't really matter. Guys are just trying to feel their way out. And with this abbreviated spring training, maybe, once again, we'll get a bit of jank in this first month of the season, right? So I think that will also be fun to see, because, hey, it's always fun to see the Baltimore Orioles leading the American League East by the start of May 1st. And then, of course, they'll fall apart and do nothing, and will become a lottery team. Yes, the Major League Baseball will have a draft lottery, just like the other leagues, which is, we'll see how that works out. We'll see. Teams are still going to tank. That's still going to happen. And then there's, of course, the thing, the Oakland A's are just shedding payroll like crazy right now. And a lot of people are pointing out how ridiculous things are. We had a lockout and all this other stuff, and only for the A's to field a team that, for the most part, there are teams with like 2 players that are getting paid more than the entire Oakland A's roster. But it's been that way forever. As a Marlins fan, we have definitely experienced it for sure many, many times where our entire team was getting paid less than 2-3 players on other teams like the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers. So it's not nothing I can really harp on about for Oakland fans, but just kind of sucks that they're going through another cycle of their rebuild and have yet to see even an American League championship to show for it. Yeah. Well, and then one last thing. Of course, the Final Four, NCAA tournament, we have the national championship game. It'll be between Kansas and North Carolina. So I guess the big thing, and we go through this entire tournament, and ultimately in the end, the Final Four was just basketball powerhouses: Villanova, Kansas, North Carolina, and Duke. Those 4 teams. That's what it came out to. So it's like, we go through this entire ordeal, and ultimately we reach just 4 blue bloods in the Final Four. But hey, St. Peter's gave it a run. That was great. Yeah, I think that was so far the story of this NCAA tournament so far. Yeah, but even then, North Carolina going on this run as well. They, as much as they are a basketball powerhouse, they weren't projected to be going this far. And there's some sort of intrigue with regards to that, and especially who they defeated to get here. They faced off against their in-state rival, their forever rival, Duke, and beating Mike Krzyzewski in his final game to get there. That's great. That's always great. And whenever I see between North Carolina and Duke, I'm always on the side of North Carolina. Don't know why. Maybe it's I don't know. Duke seems like more of the dicks in this, not even the rivalry, but in the ACC as well. I'm a Seminoles alum and fan, so they have to deal with both those teams. But it seems like Duke is the one that most people just love to hate. Just love to hate. And so North Carolina, and what's more, North Carolina, of course, was the alma mater of a lot of great NBA players, but namely Michael Jordan. So there's always that right there. And that's always why that school is always going to get people kids to go over there. I mean, recruiting is, I'm sure it's hard having Duke in the same state and in the same conference, but they're North Carolina. They have swag Jordan stuff, and Michael Jordan used to play there, and they have a long legacy of national championships and success, so, and pipelines to the NBA. But yeah, we'll see. Kansas and North Carolina, I don't really have a preference for either one. So it doesn't really matter to me who wins with regards to that. And I think that's it for this entry. I think we're at 22 minutes here. So whoever listens to this, please bookmark us, subscribe to us. We're on everything. Look for us on YouTube. Look for us on wherever podcasts are heard as well. We're on Twitch too. We're on, and of course, social medias, where you can also catch our show whenever we go live. You can catch us live on YouTube, on Twitch. Those are the main two. And of course, Twitter at sports_goofs. You can follow me at FGOGR. You can follow Andrew at Dan Frijoles, or you could follow Charles at Charles the True. And we've got our other sports endeavors. If you're interested in Marlins history, I'm at Marlins History, or I'm also at FLA Cats History. You want to see my stuff about the Florida Panthers. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later. What's up, everybody? This is Francisco from Sports Goofs. There's another entry in SG Mini. Just tiny little entries, just basically me and my solo opinions as to what's going on in sports, and if I feel like talking about something, then I'll talk about it. So I guess right now, big story, I guess, would be that the Los Angeles Lakers have failed to make the playoffs and have failed to even make the play-in round in the NBA for the 2022 season. A team comprised of LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony and Rajon Rondo and Anthony Davis did not make the playoffs. Now, the construction of this team was awful. I can't even name you anybody else on that team that's most likely on their bench or what have you. I can't name anybody else. That team was horribly constructed. And people are like, oh, LeBron James is not the GM. LeBron James is pushing around the Lakers. And right now, I don't even know how much he's in love with Los Angeles itself. I think, and like the prospect of playing for the Lakers, I don't think he's in it to be part of the Lakers. I think he's more in it to be in Los Angeles and promote his entertainment endeavors. That's why he's there. So if the Lakers don't make the playoffs, then whatever. They got a championship, but now they really were the perfect bubble team. That Los Angeles Lakers 2020 team. Not the Miami Heat that faced them, because the Miami Heat that faced them are number one in the Eastern Conference right now. That Lakers team was a perfect bubble team. Anthony Davis can maintain himself in a bubble. Outside of that, he's people say that, he's basically glass, but I don't think people realize how strong glass can be. No, Anthony Davis is that sugar glass that they use for special effects in the movies. That's what Anthony Davis is. He's ceramic. He's a very thin potato chip. Like he does not hold up whatsoever. And LeBron James is older now. His conditioning is fantastic, but he's starting to get more injuries, more maintenance days. And he did all he could. I truly believe he did all he could. And at some point it was just he can't carry this team to glory. He can't. The NBA is just too good right now. There are too many good teams for them to sneak on by. He could do it in the Eastern Conference in 2005 with that Cavaliers team. But the NBA nowadays, with more parity and more talent spread around, also, I feel like the spread of talent in the NBA is a lot better, and teams are better equipped to, I guess, handle guys moving on to some of these bigger markets. But even then, I think the NBA is not really about that anymore. I think guys can promote themselves better thanks to social media, that they don't really need to be in a big media market in order to do that. So I think really it's not LeBron's fault that the Lakers didn't make it this far with regards to his play, but construction of the team, yeah, he's had some influence. Anthony Davis was there. Anthony Davis was already there. Rajon Rondo was already there. But Carmelo Anthony, I think that was LeBron trying to get his buddy a ring, thinking, come on down to L.A., we got a team ready to go, and you'll get one more shot at a championship. Yeah, Carmelo did what he played within his role. I think Carmelo's done a better job in his really in the twilight years of his career compared to other NBA players who couldn't realize that they really need to lower their roles and they're not what they were when they were 27. And that's what Carmelo's done. But so there's that. But Russell Westbrook is not the same player anymore. And playing for that Lakers team with that pressure, and he's from LA. And it must really suck to be in your hometown and people hate you. people want you off the team. People don't want you there. That must really suck. And it came to a head this season with threatening him, his family. Like that, people are insane. Like Los Angeles fans don't deserve anything good. They've had enough. They've had enough. The karmic gods of the sporting world need to stop with Los Angeles. The Dodgers, the Kings, the Lakers, the Rams, USC, UCLA. Like, that's it. Anaheim's far enough. The Ducks and the Angels are fine. But the rest, and the Clippers are whatever. Oh, I forgot the Chargers play there too. But, man, it feels like all those guys are on the wrong side of 30. And speaking from a guy who is also on the wrong side of 30. But my wrong side of 30 doesn't. I work in a career that doesn't require me to be on the right side of 30. Gosh, man, what a shit show. But the rest of the NBA world is happy. That is for sure. And, well, I mean, since the last time I did this, we'll update you one more time. Right now, there's only one play-in spot left, and it's in the Western Conference. It's really between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Nuggets should lock up their 6th seed, so they don't have to play in the play-in tournament. So it's likely going to be Minnesota, who have a winning record, are 10 games above 500 for the first time in forever. And will face off in, so like right now, the play-in tournament has Minnesota versus the Los Angeles Clippers, and then the New Orleans Pelicans versus the San Antonio Spurs. The winner between the Spurs and Pelicans will go off to face the loser of the Wolves-Clippers game. And then those two, whoever wins with that, will go off to face the Phoenix Suns. On the other side, it's looking like it's going to be Cleveland versus Brooklyn. And in that play-in, then you have Atlanta versus Charlotte. So the winner between Atlanta and Charlotte will go off against the loser between Cleveland and Brooklyn. And whoever wins that will go on to face the Miami Heat. And then the rest of the first round is Philadelphia, Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, and then Boston versus the winner between Cleveland and Brooklyn. And so then you have, for the rest of the Western Conference, it's Dallas, Utah, then Golden State versus Denver, and Memphis will face off with either Minnesota or the Clippers. And so that's the NBA. That's what's going on right now. The Heat should be able to hopefully wrap up the Eastern Conference with 2 games left for pretty much everybody. They're 2 games ahead of Boston. So there's that. And yeah, it seems to be it with the rest of that. And I mean, and some of that seeding could change between some of these teams. Boston and Milwaukee and Philadelphia are pretty close. It seems like Toronto is where they're at. That they pretty much where they're going to be. Same thing with Chicago. So those teams know that they will be going on the road and facing off against either Boston, Milwaukee, or Philadelphia. And then in the Western Conference, Memphis is set where they're at. Same thing with Phoenix. Then you can have some interchangeability between Golden State and Dallas. And then interchangeability between Utah and Denver. And of course, Minnesota could always stage a comeback and try and get there. But I don't really think Denver's going to lose that final spot. So that's the NBA's stuff. Well, then we got the National Hockey League. Florida Panthers with an amazing game, coming back from 5-1 down to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 7-6 in a game where they really did need to prove that they could beat Toronto, and they did. So the Panthers have pretty much beaten every significant team in the NHL this season. Toronto, Boston, Carolina, New York, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Washington. Heck, even the West, they beat Colorado. It's something right now. It is something. But there are still 12 games left for pretty much most of these teams, 12, 11, and maybe 13 games for some. So it's not entirely over. However, we're getting close. We're getting close in the NHL. Right now, the Eastern Conference is pretty much set with the 8 teams, like I said before. But now it's just a matter of seeding. The Metro Division is still up for grabs. The Panthers have a bit of a lead over Toronto, 8 points ahead of them with 12 games left to try and wrap up the Atlantic Division. And they're 6 points up on Carolina to try and see if they can get the best record in the East. They're 2 points back of Colorado for the President's Trophy and home ice throughout the playoffs. And it seems like Washington's basically settled into that second wild card spot, unless Tampa falters a lot, or Boston. Not sure if Washington's going to be able to make up 7 points in ground over the course of 12 games. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NHL. Then Colorado's pretty much set where they're at. They are probably going to get the best record in the Western Conference. At this point, they've pretty much clinched it. They've pretty much clinched it at this point. It'd be pretty impossible for Minnesota to come back over the course of the rest of their 13 games to move ahead of Colorado. But interchangeable between Minnesota and St. Louis in that second and third spot for home ice between that round between those two teams. It doesn't seem... And also, St. Louis has a 6-point lead on Nashville and 7 on Dallas for the third spot in the Central Division. Nashville and Dallas hold those 2 wildcard spots, and then Vegas is sitting outside looking in with 3 games out of hand on Dallas. So Dallas has 3 games in hand and 1 point up on Vegas at this point. So it's looking not so good for Vegas, which will be the first time in their franchise's history they won't make the playoffs. And Calgary leads the Pacific Division. They've got a 7-point or is it a 7-point lead? Or no, it's a 6-point lead over Edmonton. And the Los Angeles Kings are 8 points back. Or 7 points back, actually. 7 points back. And yeah, well, we'll see. It's interchangeable between home ice between Edmonton and Los Angeles. The battle for Wayne Gretzky's soul, if you will. Calgary, they play consistent here. They'll most likely wrap up that Pacific Division. And that's it from the Western Conference in the NHL. And I'm recording this late, so later on today is opening day for Major League Baseball. However, there's been some issues with regards to the weather, as the weather is not really cooperating around here. So some games that were supposed to be happening are not. And hold on, my MLB app is taking forever to load at this point, which is not good. Not good at all. Let's try this again, shall we? Come on. I know it's late. You guys can't be down for server maintenance. So here we go. So opening day, as of now, the only games that have been postponed, we've got Minnesota and Seattle. That's been postponed, as well as Boston and the New York Yankees. That's also been postponed, and we'll see for the rest of the games how they fare. But the team that will be opening up, the first game will be between Milwaukee and Chicago over at Wrigley Field. And you got Cleveland and Kansas City, and Pittsburgh and St. Louis, New York and Washington, the Mets. That's what I mean. The Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves will be, that'll be at prime time at 8 o'clock. The Braves will be debuting their gold-trimmed uniforms and most likely will be trotting out their World Series rings. Then the Astros and Angels out in California, San Diego and Arizona to finish out the night for opening day. Now my team, the Marlins, doesn't play until Friday. They go off to San Francisco, and we'll play them. And we'll see if the Yankees and Red Sox get it going. Early in the day, Chicago, the White Sox are off in Detroit. The Oakland A's are in Philadelphia. So the A's have returned to Philly to face off against Philly. Baltimore and Tampa Bay will play their first game. Same thing with the Dodgers and the Rockies. And Seattle, Minnesota, see if they can get the game off the ground as well. Then Texas will be off to Toronto. So they've crossed the border over there. And yeah, so that's what we have. So that's baseball. It's happening, folks. Baseball is going to be happening. Real baseball that counts, will be happening. So I'm excited about that. Well, as far as that's concerned, I guess some internal stuff between the crew at Sports Goofs. Andrew tried a chimichanga for the first time in his life, and it was quite good. He thoroughly enjoyed it. We have been thoroughly enjoying, well, mainly me. I have been thoroughly enjoying introducing Andrew's palate to tastier fares, if you will. And first time was the Milanesas. Heck, before even that, I took him to a few places, but now we're adamant to at least get him to someplace new. And hopefully it's like a weekly thing that we can do, a weekly luncheon where we order in and we try and get him to try something new. So Charles is not happy about it because he's missing out. He's missing out between all of us. So I sent Charles the menu. It was from a place called Taco Rico. I guess if we had to have a non-sponsor, it would be this. Charles was sad because he just got a smoothie for today, and he hates all of us. So that's fine. That's fine. And Andrew went for chimichangas. Charles and I had harped about chimichangas, thanks to our mutual love of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And when Mac was getting fat and introduced Dennis to chimichangas. So that kind of resonated with us. I got flautas, though. Flautas. Those were nice, crunchy corn tortillas rolled up with some meat inside of it. Some meats and some corns. And just yummy. Just yum, yum, yum. And Charles was not happy to see us enjoying ourselves. Of course, we took photos. We took photos of our food and sent it to Charles. And he told us to go up ourselves, which was great. And Andrew didn't want to talk about what he felt about chimichanga. At least he didn't want to post it on our group chat. However, I wanted to get him to tell me what his review of the chimichanga was. As he was speaking to me, I was pretending like I was like scrolling my phone for something else or adjusting or whatever, or wiping my mouth or something like that. But as he was speaking, I was writing a brief summary of what he felt. So his assessment, this is what I posted. He said that that was amazing. There was cheese. It fell apart, but it was tough to eat at times. But the cheese gave it more structure. It was very cheesy. It was not spicy. The meat was good. It was not runny. He got ground beef with his, by the way, inside of his chimichanga. The distribution to him felt uneven with regards to the ingredients inside of the fried burrito, but that's basically what a chimichanga is. So, but the back end where the cheese came in with like the sour cream, and this is basically I try to find a way to type this out, but the only way you can really say it is to say it. Oh, that was heaven. And then he did a second, but I didn't write that to Charles. Andrew, of course, tried to say that he didn't want me to he didn't want to even say it. He didn't want to cause Charles more pain. I of course, put a mission accomplished gif of Kronk from Emperor's New Groove to show off my how proud I was with what I did, and Charles said that he hated all of us. So, mission accomplished. I felt like I'm happy that Andrew had the chimichangas. The flautas were good too. Just everything was good. My flautas came with, of course, the refried beans and the bit of rice, chips and salsa. So good. So good. And that's it, everybody. That's it for this Sports Goofs Mini. I'm Francisco. You can always follow us on everything. We're on Twitter at sports_goofs. You can also follow us individually. I'm at FJOGR. Charles is at Charles the True. Andrew's at Damp Frijoles. And we're also on Instagram and TikTok at Sports Goofs as well. You can check us out on YouTube if you want to see our past episodes. Most of them are back on there. Heck, just listen to us on the podcast stuff. Pretty much, every episode that we've ever done is on whatever podcast app that you're listening us on. I didn't even say that correctly, but it doesn't matter. The sentiment holds true regardless. We're on everything. Our net is cast pretty damn wide, and at some point you're going to see the goofs, because we are the Marianas Trench of sports media. And every once in a while, someone wants to come down and see us. Take care, everybody.